Does this happen to you? Whenever you turn on your computer, you see advertisements specifically tailored to your tastes on the screen. It's kind of creepy, right? The bots and algorithms that stalk our browsing and online purchases feed us images of shiny objects designed to make us want stuff. When I drove down I-95 to get here this morning, I saw signs, big billboards, vehicles covered with advertisements for yet more things like hamburgers, lawn care. I turned on the radio and heard that I needed an amazing new mattress for a good night's sleep. Well, back in the 70s, it was reported that the average person saw between 500 and 1,500 ads per day. Without online marketing being a thing back then, most ads could be found on billboards, in newspapers, and on TV promoting the latest products. Even with their limited resources, marketing firms were always working on ingenious ways to target consumers with new strategies, such as positioning. In a media-oriented culture, advertisers found it necessary to position a product in the consumer's mind, both within the context of its own benefits and in relation to its competitors. This led to the birth of product placement, one of the most time-tested marketing strategies that is still used today. A classic example is to pay a sports figure to wear athletic shoes with the Nike swoosh on them. I guess I just did a product placement in a sermon. But anyway, a few decades later, advertising exploded into everyday life. In 2007, the market research firm Yankelovich estimated that the average consumer now saw up to 5,000 ads per day. Now fast forward to 2023, and although there are no official figures, the average person is now estimated to encounter between 6,000 and 10,000 ads every single day. Madison Avenue, advertisers are banking on the age-old satisfaction paradox. You see, satisfaction is elusive. We crave it. We believe we can get it. We catch a glimpse of it for a moment and then poof, it's gone. But we never give up on our quest to obtain satisfaction and hold on to it for as long as we can. It's the drive behind every drug and every thrilling adventure. I remember our daughter's first Christmas. We bought her a whole bunch of toys that we thought would make her happy or teach her some new skills. But all she wanted to do was play with the box. And she was content to get in it, push it around, or just bang on it. We were amazed at how easily satisfied she was and how simple life's pleasures were for her. All she needed was something to help her process her energy. So what exactly is this thing that we call satisfaction? Well, I conjure up that it may be the sense of happiness is from getting what we want. Happiness is getting what we want. Let's try that for a little while. But the problem is, we really don't know what we want deep inside. So we continuously chase external things like wealth, prestige, and power. We attach our self-worth to objects that we believe will make us feel good by looking good in the eyes of others. And we may achieve some level of success or obtain the object of our desires, but the feeling of bliss dissipates after a while. We see someone else enjoying something that we don't have, maybe on a TV commercial, and off we go, craving the next thing to keep feeling good or to avoid feeling bad. It happened to me last month when I was at the UUA General Assembly in Pittsburgh. I saw one of my dear friends up on the stage during the Sunday worship, and I thought, I want to be up there preaching to 3,000 people. That must be a rush. And I wasn't paying attention to the sermon. In his essay, Self-Reliance, Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "At home, I dream that at Naples, at Rome, I can be intoxicated with beauty and lose my sadness. I pack my trunk, embrace my friends, embark on the sea, and at last wake up in Naples, and there beside me is the stern fact, the sad self, unrelenting, identical, that I fled from." Psychologists Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell call this the hedonic treadmill. Our inquisitive and adaptive minds are always seeking new levels of stimulation merely to maintain old levels of subjective pleasure. But we never achieve any kind of permanent satisfaction. We seem to have a built-in tendency to always strive for more. We end up running faster, but never getting anywhere. This isn't a new phenomenon brought on by our capitalist economic system, although I'm sure it's gotten way worse. 2,500 years ago, the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, came to the realization that life is suffering. In Sanskrit, the word for suffering is interchangeable with dissatisfaction. One of the noble truths of Buddhism is that the cause of this suffering is the attachment to the fleeting things of the world. But to be clear, worldly goods in and of themselves are not bad or good. They just are. We need money to exchange things so that we can support our family. We can use our power to help others or to correct injustices. And let's face it, entertainment adds spice to life and elevates our spirits. But it is our attachment to these things for our overall happiness which causes the suffering. In the sacred text of the Tao Te Ching, my favorite sacred text, verse 3, Lao Tzu writes, "Putting a value on status will create contentiousness. If you overvalue possessions, people begin to steal." The master, which Lao Tzu was always talking about, the master within us, that divinity that was hidden inside. The master leads by emptying people's minds and filling their cores, by weakening their ambition and toughening their resolve. The master helps people lose everything they know, everything they desire, and creates confusion in those who think that they know. So practice not doing, and everything will fall into place. I believe he's telling us to tame our egos, to realize that focusing on obtaining more objects of desire encourages external forces and external factors to have control over us. Instead, we are told to empty our minds and fill our cores. That passage reminds me of meditation or pure action in which we let go of our attachments to results. He's not saying don't do things, but just let go of the attachment to control and to results. When we tap into our inner peace of just being who we are in our simplest, most basic form, For some of you, that may happen when you meditate or practice yoga, or perhaps while working in your garden, dancing to music, or just doing anything that is very creative. For me, one of the ways that I empty my mind and fill my core is when I go forest bathing. The point of forest bathing is to open my senses to everything around me into the forest. There is so much stimulation, but the point is not to acquire and hold on to it, but to let it pass through me. It is a very embodied practice in which I slow down and get in sync with the more than human natural world. If you think about it, the human species has lived almost its entire duration in the forest and the savannas of Africa. Some researchers say that 98% of our existence as a species has been in the forest and savannas. When I'm in the forest, I feel a visceral connection to my true nature. The bliss that I experience in the forest is like a homecoming, an innate sense of belonging. Now, the forest, like any other ecosystem, is fully connected and interdependent. What seems like a collection of individual trees, plants, and animals is really a community of intense competition and cooperation at the same time. Time is much slower in the forest. I can't see the vine move or the flower bud open, but it's happening right in front of me. Of course, I don't stay out there. Eventually, I must come back to the human-paced world with all its ego-driven enticements of temporary satisfaction. I think the reason that I go into the forest or sit on my meditation couch in the mornings is to remember in my body how to regulate my desires. And of course, it's a work in progress. I get caught up in the rat race. I get attached to pride. I succumb to the allure of material objects. But I think the reason for finding those moments when I can empty my mind, as the Taoist instructs us, is so that I can reestablish my connection with the source of life and break the spell of the bright and shiny objects, so that I can better recognize when I'm being manipulated by slick advertisements for a better life. It's kind of like going shopping in a supermarket. It is better to go when your stomach is satiated than when you are hungry. Have you ever gone shopping for one thing and you end up filling your basket because your immediate desires overrode your grocery list? In his book, The Art of Happiness, none other than the Dalai Lama writes, "I really love to see supermarkets because I can see so many beautiful things. But when I look at all these different articles, I develop a feeling of desire. And my initial impulse might be, oh, I want this, I want that." If you go to the market already satiated and full, you can focus more on what you really need rather than satisfying your immediate whims. I believe that is what the ancient masters and spiritual teachers are telling us. To satiate ourselves with the simple joy of life, even in times of grief, loss, and loneliness. Know this: you are connected to something much greater than yourself, and that who you are deep down inside is neither good nor bad. You are worthy and you are loved. You are still that child who can find happiness from the simplest things, like a box. So to revisit my definition of satisfaction, satisfaction is not just about getting what you want, but it is also about appreciating what you already have. In other words, not focusing so much on the future when you will be happy if only you had the new thing, rather focusing on the present moment and the life already in you and around you. The secret to a deeper, more fulfilling satisfaction is not constantly increasing our haves. That will never work, or at least it will never last. That, remember, is the hedonic treadmill. The secret is to manage our desires. By managing what we want instead of appreciating, rather, by managing what we want and appreciating what we have, we give ourselves a chance to lead more satisfying lives. These things that we have include the spontaneous stirrings of the soul from the mystical to the mundane, a bird song, a child laughing, a sunset, a fragrant flower, perhaps a loved one reaching out just to see how you're doing. We have them just by being in the moment, not expecting them to last forever because nothing ever does. The things that really matter, that bring us deep satisfaction, connect us to our true nature, and remind us that we are connected to a vast and holy universe. We have no reason to grasp them and possess them, because ultimately we share them with everybody already. So the next time that an ad shows up on your computer screen, or you see a splashy advertisement with beautiful people having so much fun, remind yourself that you're full, which in Spanish translates to satisfecho, satisfied. And better yet, focus on what your neighbor needs that you can provide. Remember the words of the Tao Te Ching. When action is pure and selfless, everything settles into its own perfect place. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.